Before we begin this video, a brief announcement from my behalf. I will begin the next incidents montage soon, this time in the holiday spirit. It will be premiering as an early Christmas special on the 24th of December. I will begin looking through submissions once it becomes the 1st of December. So in the meantime, allow me to briefly explain how you can handle in your submissions. The first and arguably best way to get your submissions seen is through the Floral Federation Discord, specifically in the dedicated incidents chat located within the shooter category. The other two methods you can send your submissions are either through Xbox or on Twitter if you are unable to access the server. Remember, I will begin looking through submissions on the 1st of December, so make sure to get your submissions in whenever you can. Now, back to our scheduled program. Welcome to a video on how to get good at the Citron, the hit and run specialist who is commonly seen as a massive pussy if they use a certain ability in every fight they engage in. Players who can master the art of picking their fights carefully will be able to deal with enemies easier than finding an alternative ad block to go against YouTube's ideology of blocking ad blockers. Let's get started. The Citron is a tank hit and run class who specializes in vitamin C'ing the shit out of his enemies, getting his bounties, and peeling the fuck out. The Citron class boasts a great health pool of 200, making him rather bulky and hard to take down. However, as a result of this health, the Citron is the slowest class in the game when in his assault form, traveling at a sluggish speed of 6 meters per second. However, he can change to make his movement speed much faster, which we will get into later. The Citron's primary weapon of choice is a Vitesco's home brand Shoop de Whoop laser that harnesses the power of cramming 30 juice boxes into a small space. The weapon fires at 400 rounds per minute and can fire for up to 4.9 consecutive seconds before suffering an overheat, where the weapon will become unavailable for the next 2.45 seconds. Each shot fired can deal 11 damage for a normal hit, 12.8 for a critical hit, and 2 for the splash in an extremely small radius. However, the weapon suffers greatly at mid-range, with it going down to only 4 damage for a normal hit and 4.4 for a critical hit. Because of how Citron's weapon operates, it is best suited for close-range combat, as you effectively lose nearly 2/3 of your damage output at anything beyond mid-range, though unlike All-Star, whose projectiles travel rather slowly, Citron's beam weapon means that there is zero travel time to take into account, allowing you to still engage in fights consistently at mid to long range, though you will not deal much damage. The splash damage the weapon has is rather poor, and is only capable of granting a slight leeway in terms of accuracy, so if the opponent is a squirmy ass motherfucker, such as an imp or a scientist, it may come in handy. The first ability of the Citron is the Peel Shield. This will cause the Citron to flash a shield in front of his face that lasts either 30 seconds or until it takes 75 damage, whichever comes first. The shield is capable of sponging most attacks, even if said attack exceeds the shield's health pool, so it can be used to either extend your health if engaging against risky enemies, or to block sudden potentially fatal instances of damage, such as Ultra Balls or ZPGs. Do note however, that if the enemy has watched 10,000 hours of Rick and Morty and has a master's degree in common sense, they can shoot underneath your shield and hit your legs, since the shield does not extend all the way to the ground. That and they can bypass your shield if they are barrel stuffing you. The shield goes on a 30-second cooldown once it expires, so be sure to use it sparingly. The Citron's second and most infamous ability within his assault form is the EMPeach. It is more commonly known as the I cannot be fucked to properly aim move. When activated, the Citron will charge up the attack before unleashing the projectile. The projectile travels fairly slowly and arcs heavily at long distances, so you will have to aim upward as to take this into account. Any unfortunate fuck who gets hit by this shit will be stunned for 1.5 seconds and take up to 10 damage depending on how close they are to the explosion. Whilst stunned, they move 20% slower, turn 50% slower, and take 3 damage every half a second. This is what it does to normal players, but if the unfortunate idiot you happen to hit is that of any Z-Mech variant, then they will be plunged into an absolute nightmare, as the ability is especially effective against them. For starters, the effects of the stun last an entire 5 seconds, as opposed to 1.5 seconds, though the previously mentioned effects only last the standard 1.5 5 seconds, except the damage over time, which continues for the whole duration. Additionally, during the 5 seconds that they are affected, the mechs cannot zoom in with their primary weapon, cannot jump at all, cannot use their abilities, and if the mech uses ammo, they cannot manually reload it without dumping the entire clip. In other words, hitting a Z-mech with the speech of death essentially leaves them without any access to their tools for 5 whole seconds, which can easily spell death for them if they're in the wrong place at the wrong time. That, or it can be used as a method of escape if the Z-mech is proving to be too much trouble for Citron to face by himself. Once deployed, the EMP takes a lengthy 39-second cooldown, so make sure to get the most out of it when using the ability, and try not to waste it like a dumbass, as enemies will seize the opportunity. The Citron's third ability is the transform ability. This allows the Citron to switch in between his ball form and assault form at a moment's notice. This is where Citron can enhance his mobility and allow him to easily fulfill his role as a hit-and-run specialist. Whilst in ball form, he cannot attack or use any of his assault abilities, but in return, he gains a 50% speed increase and a noticeably higher jump. This mode is best used to either get into position to fight enemies, reposition mid-fight to either throw off your opponent or escape them, and general map travel. So if you have no enemies that you need to fight, just hop in the ball and fuck around until you find out. Whilst in the ball form, he gets access to 2 new abilities that can either enhance his mobility even more or deal some damage even whilst in ball form. The first of these abilities is the Hyper Ball. This makes the Citron essentially overclock his ball form for the next 15 seconds, during which he will move an additionally 50% faster and jump significantly higher. This can be useful for getting to high ground of desire, or simply getting to an important location within a moment's notice. However, whilst the ability is active, you glow like a fucking firework display and leave a bright ass trail behind you, which makes you easy to spot by enemies, so do keep this in mind when traveling to your location of desire, since enemies can also track your location due to the trail and easily hunt you down. Once the Hyper Ball expires, it will go on a 25-second cooldown. The other, more offensive ability of the ball form is Spin Dash. This will cause the Citron to root to the spot for a brief moment before launching himself forward a short distance. Any enemy that gets in the way of the dash will take 50 damage and will be sent backwards a fair distance, which can be used to either knock him or their ass like a bowling pin, or send them off the map and into the abyss, never to be seen again. It also has a mobility option, where if you use the ability of Village, the momentum will carry you a massive distance forward, which can allow for near cross-map travel within the little blink of a fucking eye, so the ability can be adaptable to multiple situations needed at any notice. Once used, the ability will go on a 30-second cooldown. In terms of strengths, the Citron's high health pool and powerful close-range primary and abilities make him a force to be reckoned with up close. His EMP and shield allow him to not only cripple Z-mechs severely, but to also increase his overall bulkiness and avoid fatal blows. Lastly, his ball form and its abilities can allow for some extreme mobility and be able to travel large distances extremely quickly. However, Citron's kit is only suited for close-range combat, with his primary weapon losing more than half of its damage output beyond mid-range, and it can overheat if used too much, leaving you vulnerable for 2.5 seconds. Additionally, outside of the spin dash ability, Citron cannot attack in any capacity when in the ball form, so the player has to choose whether to sacrifice speed to attack, or the ability to attack for speed. Thanks to this guide, you will now know how to hit and run like a little bitch and chip at enemies at long range for like 11 damage per second. Be sure to come back for the next episodes next week. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more shit like this. Have fun.